Welcome home to St. Anne's.
I don't think you're paying attention. All right, I had to put my frog up here so that you know that, like,
We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you.
Go on. Okay. My chickens were here. See, if it were Pet Blessing Sunday, this would not be a problem. My chickens would have taken, I know, if you weren't here for Pet Blessing, my chickens were here. You missed them. Ooh, that was the beginning to a sermon, wasn't it? We're all sorts of distracted today. We've got Chiefs fans here. We've got the costume. Is my mic working? Oh, weird. Okay. The whole point of this mic is that I can, like, move around and be weird, crazy, but it's fine. My family almost always does family costumes because I'm a controlling mother and I love themes, like obsessed with them. This theme this year is Harry Potter. I want special credit for Wesley's. I worked really, really hard on it. She's wearing a toilet seat and I love it. It makes me so happy. Good job, Frog. Gospel. So our reading today really focus on rules. And I know I've already told you I have like 3 sermons. There's the rule sermon. This is the rule versus love sermon. You've heard it before. You're going to hear it again. It's important. The gospel's all about it. So, isn't it funny? This is never the Leviticus that gets quoted, right? I know, you're like, really? That's Leviticus? Yes, that's Leviticus. I'm going to tell you about Leviticus in a second because when Jesus talks about all the laws and all the prophets hanging on these 2 rules, this is what he's talking about. Leviticus is written as a guidebook of how to live together in community at this time and in this place. So it's like if it's St. Anne's, we came up with some guides of St. Anne's. We're like, okay, so here's kind of how, I don't know. Together in community as St. Anne's. What are some that you would be like, okay, people should know about living? What? To each other. Yes, because we all have different viewpoints, right? So one of the very basic tenets of living on them, this ain't it. This ain't it. Ain't nobody ever voted the same ballot in this church. We've all some other things that you would be like, this is a basic rule that you should probably know if you're going to come in and live in this community. Don't be judgy. That's another big one in our church. To be honest, don't be judgy your priest. She's kind of weird. So yeah, and I will add a sense of humor. I don't know anyone who would be comfortable in this church if you didn't have a really strong sense of humor, right? So there are just some basic rules that we live by in this community. Are they like hard and fast rules, like you're going to die if you don't follow them? No, but they're ones that we would strongly encourage as we live together in community, right? That's what Leviticus is about. So in that time and in that place, do you suppose that there would be rules and expectations to live together in community that might be slightly different than, suburban Lee Summit in the Missouri in the middle of the grand United States of America. Yeah, maybe they're slightly different ones. But all of them, and you'll notice our rules that you kind of said we would think that we would follow, really hang on two things. What are those two things that Jesus mentions? Love God, love each other, right? All of it comes from this place. You will never learn to love by following rules. It doesn't work that way. Anyone ever done that? Like, you have really strong, strict rules. Anyone? No, that's not how it works. We're in relationship first. We find love first. And then there are some basic rules. I mean, I'll be honest, in our marriage, you suppose there's some kind of basic rules, like my husband's new one is you can't bring anything living home while I'm gone. Because I've done that, a lot. I've brought a kid home. I brought dogs home. I brought a cat home. I brought a chicken home. So when he left last Sunday, what do you think he said to me when he left? You may not bring anything home while I'm gone. And I was like, fine. Fine. But do you suppose my following that comes out of love or out of there's a new rule and I must follow it? Because trust me, 19-year-old Meg would have been like, I ain't following that rule. But 39-year-old Meg, after 16 years of marriage, is like, I guess, fine, whatever. She may have said those other words too, but it's fine. So the message today that we get in the gospel is that all of this really hangs on two things that we always come to. Love. Love of God, and then therefore, out of that love of God, love of others. And then out of that, we're going to figure out how to live together in community. And the rules and the basic things that we follow when we live together in community is going to be a little bit different. The ones that apply here at St. Anne's might be a little bit different than another community in another place. Does that make sense? If you ever want to ask my opinion about HOAs, now's the time. But do you suppose an HOA in one community might be different than an HOA in another? And if you drive by my house right now, when it's under construction and a kind of hot mess, you understand why HOAs exist. Because, oh my goodness. So when we talk about these things, when we're quoting Leviticus, we should be quoting this line. Love God. Love God, and through the love of God, love one another. Because whatever scary parts of Leviticus you've heard, I can tell you why they're there. And it's all about the safety and love of the community, the safety and love of the other as they come into the community. How do they welcome? How do they care for all of the community? That's what this is all about. And I realize that there's probably so many other things that you want to ask about these texts, but it really is this simple. Love. People want to catch Jesus, don't they? They want to catch him. It's like last week when the best sermon I've ever preached, for those of you who weren't here. Best sermon ever. It was fantastic. Quite possibly the worst if you were here. But it's really, these people are obsessed with rules, right? Do you know, or are you a person who's obsessed with rules? You love a good rule book. My oldest is one of those. I may be married to one of those. Yeah. we can be honest. There are people who are highly organized. They love a good rule because that's how we know how to live together, right? And so there's this obsession with that, right? But the reality is that all of those rules and all of that stuff is really about love. And while they're trying to catch Jesus and stuff, Jesus is like, yeah, but all of that stuff really comes from these two rules. And when we can live together with those two rules, the rest of it will figure itself out. So I get that different churches have different expectations, and that's okay. Because they're different communities and different times and different places, and that's okay. The church that this was in 1991 is probably different than it is today. I know some of you were here in 1991. Is it a little bit different now? You're like, sweet Jesus, yes it is. And do you suppose that the church in 30 years is going to be different than it is today? I would hope so. But I promise you, wherever it was in 1999, wherever it is, in 2050, whatever, will be wrapped around two things: love of God and love of others. And wherever we land, however we get there, that's okay. So, welcome to Chaos. And do I still need to carry this, or what are the rules? There are rules when it comes to the mic. I get in trouble for not following the rules all the time. Okay. We're going to be patient until the peace. All right.